Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Ryzen. In this video, I will show the comparison between 3 support weapons that can be used on ENYA EXUVIA. The weapon I'm gonna compare is Abyssal Light Tier 1, Tribute of Rose Tier 5, and Prismatic Igniter Tier 5. While the main DPS I'm used for this calculation is my Eternal Enigma, who haven't reached Manifestation 1 and equipped with her signature weapon Tier 2. First, I'm gonna verify the number between actual damage and the calculation. Or you can skip this part and jump to the next part for the calculation result. This is my Eternal Enigma stat. Still have a beautiful logistic talent because I haven't gambling spree her logistic yet. And here is the pure actual damage from her Void Explosion damage and her DOT. You can see that the differentiation between actual damage versus the calculation are still within ±1%. Which means it's still acceptable because our damage usually will have ±1% variation. While this one is my ENYA EXUVIA stat, she just equipped with the gifted logistics set with the luckiest third talent for each of them. So the actual damage when she buffed Cherno while using her signature weapon Abyssal Light, Cherno Void Explosion damage will become this much, while Cherno DOT is about this much. Also, ENYA support skill damage is this much, and if we compare with the calculation, the differentiation will still within ±1%. Meanwhile, if ENYA equipped with Prismatic Igniter Tier 5 with weapon part included, Cherno Void Explosion damage will become this much. Her DOT damage will become this much, and ENYA support skill damage will be this much. And if you compare them, all of them are still within ±1% differentiation with the calculation. While for Tribute of Rose, I didn't put that weapon, so let's just depend on this calculation. And in case you are asking why ENYA support skill provides 30% skill damage buff, while in the skill description only have 18% skill damage buff. That thing is just some visual bug that soon will be fixed. You can find the 30% skill damage buff in the Nira upgrade. So from this calculation result, we can see that first, the Tribute of Rose can provide the highest skill damage buff for your main DPS, while Abyssal Light can provide the highest support skill DPS for ENYA EXUVIA herself. And beside that, it can also provide skill damage taken debuff, which is very valuable debuff that almost like final damage buff, where this debuff can improve both of ENYA EXUVIA support skill damage and your main DPS skill damage after ENYA using her support skill. While Prismatic Igniter is being Prismatic Igniter like usual. The second thing that we can notice is this one is ENYA EXUVIA DPS in case you use her as a main DPS. This is the total DPS from her standard skill DPS and her shooting DPS when you constantly shooting at the enemy weak spot. You can see that her sustain DPS is very low when you use her as a main DPS. So you can grab her bunch as much as you want in the base, but don't ever use her as a main DPS. I know it's kinda waste that you can't see her all the time on the field, when her design is very alluring just like how Tescott does. But maybe you can still use her in co-op mode like Endless Battle to support your teammates because her ability to buff skill damage and as a crowd control is very good. While the third thing we can notice is her ultimate skill damage is very low, so her ultimate skill can only be used as a life support for your active operative, in case you wanna survive a deadly blow from the enemies easily. And the last thing is, here is the total DPS comparison from Cherno after getting buffed with ENYA while using 3 of this weapon. You can see that when ENYA equipped with free-to-play Tribute of Rose, Cherno DPS will have about 9% gap with the total DPS when ENYA using her signature weapon Abyssal Light Tier 1. Meanwhile for Tier 5 Prismatic Igniter will have about 7% damage gap with the Abyssal Light total DPS. And this gap can decrease even further if you manage to get a higher attack percent talent for Eureka Logistics Squad that ENYA use. For this calculation, I only use the gifted logistics set talent. This total DPS calculation already include ENYA support skill DPS. If we ignore her DPS, then the gap will decrease. But it's not fair to ignore ENYA support skill DPS when you want to compare the weapon, because Abyssal Light can also buff her support skill damage. So if you ignoring ENYA support skill DPS for this comparison, it's the same as you are ignoring some of the Abyssal Light weapon capabilities. And if you wanna see her manifestation 2 damage, she will have a support skill final damage buff, and increase initial skill damage buff from her support skill, then the total DPS will become this much. So it's about 60% than Eternal pure damage. In case you wanna see her tier 2 weapon comparison, first let's copy paste the tier 1 total DPS. The weapon support skill damage will become 80%, active operative skill damage will become 15%, and the skill damage taken will become 40%. Then the DPS gap between tier 1 and tier 2 is about this much. So in summary, the total DPS gap is very small between each weapon. If you wanna use a free-to-play weapon, you can use Tribute of Rose tier 5. Because beside her logistics skill require her to use electric weapon, her manifestation tree will also need electric weapon to activate. So by using Tribute of Rose can be good for long-term investment, in case you wanna reach and utilize the manifestation tree. And if you wanna use Prismatic Igniter, you will need to struggle to find a higher attack percent logistic talent for her to use. Or maybe in case you still have much pool in your pocket, better pull until you get her tier 2 signature weapon for a better improvement. But overall, if you are broke, using her free-to-play weapon is still acceptable, since the gap between each weapon is very small. So what do you think about her? Besides she is free, she is also very easy to build for free-to-play players. Even with her free-to-play build, can already bring out most of her capabilities. So instead of using your money to pull for her signature weapon, it would be much better if you use it to grab her buns. I think that's all for me. Regarding her showcase video, I will make it after this. Thank you for watching, see you next time, cheers!